This week's podcast is with Laura Sinclair. She is somebody who you will hear later on in the podcast that I randomly reached out to and asked her to be a podcast guest. She is, within her own rights, phenomenally experienced in marketing. The advice that she shares is real. She answers those questions that constantly are going through our minds, especially those that are small business owners, entrepreneurs that are at the lower end and really watching their budget and where they put their money. She keeps it real. And that is so important for all of us to understand, especially when we have the terrible habit of comparing ourselves and marketing dollars spent when it comes to other larger businesses. So tune in and listen as Laura and I discuss all the things of being an entrepreneur, marketing, and mom. She is a podcaster herself, so stay tuned and listen in. Welcome to The Seed, cultivating growth and empowering women in business, brought to you by Dandelion-Inc. I'm your host, Lisa Resnick, and this podcast is all about connecting, developing, and supporting women in business. Join me as we explore tips and insights on leadership, business development, and social media strategies that can help you thrive. We'll also hear from amazing guests who share their stories and experiences, offering inspiration and practical advice for your entrepreneurial journey. So tune in, download, like, and subscribe. And remember, if you love what you hear, share it with others. Together, let's cultivate growth and empower women in business. So before we get started with today's podcast, I want to talk about a post that I recently saw on LinkedIn. It basically stated how not all of us have the same 24 hours. I'm a huge advocate that you cannot, what I do for myself doesn't necessarily apply for you, and what would work the best in your life in your 24 hours. And that's what I do during our one-on-ones is I hone in and we get down to the basics of what your everyday life looks like so we can figure out how to make it a little bit easier through processes and streamlining so you are not completely overwhelmed and going to burn yourself out as a business owner. So before you even step foot and decide to click that link and say, yes, Lisa, I want to do a one-on-one, first, I want you to go to my website, Dandelion-Inc.com, and go to the freebie section. One of the first freebies that I offered out there is your time juggling worksheet. It is absolutely nothing for you to download this worksheet that makes you look and pay attention to how many hours you are spending a day on your work, on your personal, on your community service, all the things, so you can find out where all your time is going before you figure out how to shift it and make it work for you. So again, go to www.dandelion-inc.com and download that freebie, the time juggling worksheet. And if you'd like to set a time with me, just give me a shout. You can email me direct. There is also the Let's Connect on the site, so I'd love to hear from you. So I hope you enjoy. Hey everyone, Lisa Resnick here with the Seed podcast for Dandelion-Inc. I am here with special guest Laura Sinclair. Laura Sinclair believes that you and your business deserve to be seen. Don't we all wish that? With over a decade of experience building digital marketing strategies for some of the world's biggest brands, Laura has dedicated her life's work to teaching women how to grow their businesses and take big leaps into their entrepreneurial dreams through her podcast, courses, and events. So that alone shows you how much I love Laura and how much we are in sync with one another. Laura went from corporate dropout to a multi-six-figure business owner. Her journey ranges from public relations, sports marketing, sponsorship marketing, and social media management to nutrition coach, gym owner, women's event host, community builder, author, podcast host, investor, and CEO. Laura is a mom of two, CEO of the boutique social media marketing agency, the LJ Social Agency, and the host of This Mother Means Business podcast. Hey, Laura, thank you for coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to chat.
I am too. So, Laura, how's the weather there in Toronto?
You know what? It's a little gloomy today, but warm. So it's not too bad. It could be worse. How are you doing over where you are?
I will have to say the same. I think we're pretty much, Toronto is what, about 4 hours away from Ohio?
Yeah, we're not too far.
We're not too far. Not too far at all. But very excited. So Laura is a mom of two.
Yeah.
How old were your kids when you decided to start your agency?
So, I mean, if I back up a little bit, I was actually an entrepreneur before I had kids. So I'm one of those. Typically, we see a lot of moms, they become
Yes.
entrepreneurs after they have kids. I was an entrepreneur first. And so I owned my gym. I was running my CrossFit gym at the time. I had owned that for a year. And then my daughter came into this world. And then in context of the agency, it was sort of a later season of my life. So the gym was open for about 5 years when the world shut down for 2 weeks out of an abundance of caution. We all
Yes.
know the rest of that story. I was 8 weeks pregnant with my now almost 4-year-old son. And so we closed the gym at the end of 2020. My husband and I just kind of made the decision, you know what? This isn't really for us. Gyms didn't fare well here in Canada or really anywhere for that matter during the pandemic. And so there I was with a 3-month-old baby at the time and no business and no income and how to sort of figure out what was next for me. And I started doing the thing that was easiest that I knew I could do with a 3-month-old baby at home pretty easily. And that was helping business owners use social media better and actually use it as a tool in their business and not just a place where they post pretty non-converting content. And it kind of just grew from there as people started to get really good with their social media, their businesses grew. And then they were like, can you just do this for me? And so it kind of ebbed and flowed from there.
So would you say the transition from CrossFit gym into the marketing world is pretty much the same?
No. No, but I went from the marketing world into CrossFit gym back to the marketing world. So I would say moving from corporate, that's very different from being in a small business. I mean, the fact that my gym was very successful, we did really well. I bought a gym that probably would have been closed 6 months later if I hadn't have bought it. And ended up, I was making monthly what I paid for the entire business because I had marketing skills, because I knew how to fill a funnel. I knew how to get, clicks to my site and how to get people in the door and things like that. And so when I went from running my gym back into more of a marketing capacity, it was kind of just like putting on an old cozy sweater that I just had that was just kind of in my closet for a couple of years and just pulling it back out. It was a little itchy at first, but I got back into it.
So we discussed this before because I think a lot of times we listen to podcasts, we join the workshops, everything to learn more, so we can start implementing those funnels, so we can start growing our visibility, our presence online, grow our email lists, and all that other fun stuff that we all need to do as business owners. But the one thing that is often lacking, it's like, yes, like these are example ways of that you can create like lead gen material, like the free, and I do it, like the free, here's your free like time management, here's your free
Sure.
CRM that you can start utilizing in Excel before you like have the ability to then purchase the phenomenal CRM programs that are out there, the platforms. But is it just creating the content and the funnels? Is there more to it? Is there a cost associated with it that people need to understand? And also part of the reason why we drill in knowing who their audience is so much more. But explain that a little bit more to everyone.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the like actual, I just want to make sure that I'm answering the question you want me to answer. You
There
mean
were
in terms of
several
the
in one.
actual, like, we're talking tactical, we're talking the mindset stuff that shows up, or a little bit of both?
A little bit of both,
I
really.
like it. I was like, I want, oh, so this is where I would like to go with this, but I
Yes.
wanted to make sure we're on the same page.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things that was surprising for me coming in, as a mentor. And so there's a couple sides of my business, and one of the things that I do is I mentor, consult with women on their marketing. And it's very easy for me as a marketer to say, okay, let's just going to build this funnel. You're going to create this lead magnet. You're going to, start using it to grow your email list.
Mm-hmm.
But you can have the best business in the world, the best offer, the best funnel, the best lead magnet, but it doesn't matter if nobody knows that it exists. And so there's this piece where you have to be a joiner, you have to take up space, you have to allow yourself to get into rooms like this one, to be the guest on the podcast, to, really get your voice out there. And that is easier said than done for some of us. I'm an introvert. And so coming into like a room, putting myself out there is hard, right? There's big mindset blocks that I've had to work through as an entrepreneur to go from, working behind these big brands to even
Yeah.
like behind the name of my gym. My gym is called CrossFit Bradford. It was never, Laura Sinclair's gym. It was CrossFit Bradford. And so going from this place where I've kind of hidden, quote unquote, hidden behind a brand into, oh, now I'm the brand has been required a lot of shifting, a lot of work because I didn't want to take up space. I mean, I got into PR so that I could be on the other side of the camera and not the one on it. And so there's been, there's a cost there in terms of you needing to understand for yourself, okay, like what are we comfortable with? What is like actually required? What are the parts of me that I want to share? And then like, am I willing to get uncomfortable at the
Yeah.
same time? So I think like it's interesting because I think, in the online space, and I'm a person that's built most of my business on Instagram as far as like marketing and getting clients. There's a lot of stuff on there that'll tell you like, oh, you're just gonna post on social media, create some content, and it'll go great. It's like it's not how it works. You need to
No.
have real marketing fundamentals. It's not just about social media, but it's really about, that funnel, that top of the funnel activities, and then how are we moving people through. And a lot of people that are trying to build their businesses online lack them.
It's so true. Now, when it comes to the visibility and the exposure, and when you have the tools, what after you've created everything that you've needed to, you've listened, you've been educated yourself, you grew in your mindset, and then you're like, okay, I'm putting this out there. I just don't have content. I have strategy.
Mhm.
And then you put this out there. And I think that a lot of people expect by just putting it out there, there's going to be this instantaneous result. And then when it doesn't happen, they're like, what is that key component that's missing?
Yeah.
It's like the boost versus the ads and all of that's happening right now. And we know how difficult it is. Actually, some say that it's actually easier right now for smaller businesses to have the conversion than it is the larger.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's, that you could talk about what the algorithm's doing or this or
Yes.
that. I think, you talked about like what the key component is that people are missing. And it's honestly time, which is not an answer that most people like because the reality is like this stuff does take time. I'd say the people that I know, the people that I've worked with, the people that, have done quote unquote the best, however you want to define that, in their business, they're making the most money. Those are the people that are paying to get into rooms. They're
Hmm.
joining masterminds, they're going to events. And when I talk about going to events, I don't mean like they're going to events and sitting in the back of the room and talking to no one, because that was me for a long time. I mean, they're going to events, being interested in all of the people and making the connections and, really building their networks. I have a mentor who says your network is your net worth. And that is very, very true. And so, yeah, we can spend time online creating content and trying to get in front of new audiences, but nothing will catapult your business faster than finding people to collaborate with that have networks that you can borrow or know the person that you need to know. Because sometimes with visibility, it's not always about what, sometimes it's about who, if we use the example of podcasting, for example, podcasting is
Yes.
a great way to get in front of new audiences, to get new people aware that you exist. But let's say you want to go on, I don't know, Amy Porterfield's podcast,
Yeah, there you
right?
go.
That would be hard for me to do right now. I would need to know somebody who knows Amy Porterfield
That's
that
right.
could probably do me a favor and say, "Hey, Amy, Laura really love to come on your podcast. I know that she's got a small audience, but she's great. I know that she'll provide a lot of value." Like that's what I need, in my business.
So
We need to do those
I'll
things.
join the mastermind and
Yeah.
I'll sit in the room with them. And
Yeah.
then I'll be like, listen, I got a great guest for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But it is true. Like you are right. You can't sit in the back of the room. I say this all the time. Yes, I love social media. I love creating content. I see the value in it. But when it really comes to that turnaround, that ROI, it's not just posting.
No.
You actually have to show up in the room. You need to build that your own personal brand reputation out there, which is not easy to do. It's like even with I created the name Dandelion-Inc. so I would not have to be the face. So
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. I get it. But it took me a while to be like, no, I really need to put myself out there because at the end of the day, this is who people are joining with.
Yeah.
This is who they're going to be working with. This is the person who's going to be supplying them and helping them, consulting them and all that other stuff. And it's not easy to do. It's easy to do on the back end. It's
Yeah.
not easy to expose yourself out there for people to like see what they need to see.
Yeah. And, when I think back to my time owning my gym, that's one of my biggest regrets, actually. And, I, just, one of my biggest regrets in my business and is that I didn't really step into myself. I hid behind the gym. And, when we think about a CrossFit gym, people think like, oh, big, scary, burly dudes doing scary, dangerous things. When the reality is, most people in a CrossFit gym are women and they're between 30 and 40 years old who just want to feel better about themselves, or 30 and 50. Like, it's not people that are doing these big, scary things in CrossFit gyms the way that like people perceive it. And so I know that if I had, people walk in terrified and then they meet me and they're like, oh, you're not scary at all. And so I know that
Yeah,
if I had done that more, my gym might have been more successful. I have no regrets though about like the path that I'm on or the trajectory. But if I can look back at it and, critique myself in a way is I hid. I hid because I wasn't the version of myself that I needed to be in order to step into it. But when I first started my online coaching business, like helping people with social media, if you look back to my first couple of videos, I think my hair is done. I'm wearing a blazer. It's like, this is how I'm supposed to be. And it wasn't until I really was just like, forget it, I don't have time for that. My hair, I would show up with like wet hair. No, I'm no
yeah,
makeup on even right now. Like, it's just, hey, I got 2 kids and I'm in it and I'm running this business and it's chaos. And it wasn't until I really started leaning into those aspects of my life and like what's true for me that people were like, that's true for me too. And if she can do it, then I can do it. And so, for anybody that's listening, regardless of the business that you have, you are still a huge component of it, especially if
yes,
you're in early stage, you're a founder, like don't hide behind your business name or your logo. Like none of that is going to help you. You are your brand for quite some time. Like, you think about Spanx, you think
right.
about Sarah Blakely, right? Like people,
Yes,
you can't, you don't get to hide behind this stuff anymore. Nyx is Joanna Griffith. Like there's all these people that, yeah, they build these huge brands that are outside of themselves. That's like eventually, but starting out, that's not the case.
and it takes quite some time to be able to get to that next level. And if you
Yeah.
think about the big major brands that you don't associate with a human, that's your Target, that's your Walmart, which
Yeah.
a lot of us aren't looking to be super centers. So we have to take into account what our missions and our purpose, our goals are when we are putting ourselves out there for our business. And I even think that when it comes to the team members that you bring on
Totally.
and what they are putting them out there as, because that is so associated with your brand. Anybody who's working with you is a direct association with their brand.
Yep. Absolutely.
So marketing dollars wise, when people are thinking about, hey, I have this digital course that I want people to sign up for, and you create the ads. I think you and I know the reality of the dollars that needs to be invested in
Yeah.
to reach your target audience, but on a scalable way to do it for that first digital course where someone is on a very limited budget.
Yeah.
What would you recommend to them when they put the dollars in? And how
So
then specific should they get with their audience?
yeah, it's a great question because I think that usually when we think about, oh, I'll just run ads and it'll be fine. It might not be fine. That's you have to be in a certain place organically with what you're doing to throw money at something. So even if you have $100 to spend on ads, do not spend it on ads. Okay. Spend an hour with a marketing consultant instead, or hire somebody else with that money that can give you some more direct advice on your organic strategy. Because here's the thing is the way that you want to think about ads is like pouring gasoline on a fire that already exists. If your fire is not
That is a
burning,
great analogy. I really love that.
yeah, if your fire is not already burning, do not run ads because here's what happens, right? You'll run your ads. Somebody is going to, if somebody clicks on the ad, they see what you're like. Let's say they're going to go check you out on social media because that is a behavior that people take. And then they see this ad, but you have 200 followers on social media and you're telling a course on whatever. I have questions as a consumer. And so it is important that you have your organic stuff built up to a place where there's like legitimacy there. Also,
Mhm.
you want to make sure that what you're doing from an organic perspective is converting, right? If people are coming to your website and not buying, then don't run ads because they are not going to buy just because you ran an ad. If you are have a funnel where you're building people through, like we talked about, a lead magnet into an email welcome sequence, and that's not converting. They're not buying off of that. Don't run ads to your welcome to your lead magnet because it's not going to change it. Throwing money at something doesn't fix an issue. And so you need to make sure that what you are selling from an organic, what you've created from an organic marketing perspective is actually converting. If it is not converting, spend your money on hiring an expert to fix it for you so that it will convert. And then you can put ads on it, or then you can spend money on it with ads. But ads are one of those things that people feel like will just fix things and they won't if you don't have your organic funnel already down. If you're in a place where you know what, things are converting really well, you have a good size audience, my recommendation for people is to always hire an ad agency. The cheapest ad agency that I know of is like $500 a month for a very bare bones management service. The all the way up to, $2,500 a month just for
Yeah.
your ad agency to manage, right? Just for we're talking a single platform
Yes.
type of ads. And then from there, you're depending on the size of your audience and what your goals are, you got to spend the money. Now, you're going to be making money off of that money, but unless you have a very sizable budget, you're thinking a few $1,000s a month to be spending on ads and ad management, spend your money on learning how to get a organic funnel to convert because that is going to be way better for you longer term so that when your business gets to a place where it's ready, it'll be ready. I mean, I'm in year 3.5. I'm in 3.5 years of my business, multi six-figure online business. I've never run a single ad.
That's amazing. That's amazing. But I also love the fact that you said that you have a mentor.
I do. Yeah.
Have you, I mean, and I'm one of those people who believe I might have certifications, qualifications, all of this within my company that I throw out there. But at the end of the day, the value of having an outside expert in that same field basically give the business audit, like you're talking about, looking over
Yeah.
your ads, looking over what you're doing to develop your organic visibility out there. Like, I think that that is so essential for all of us, like all of us.
Yeah. I mean, most people are not good at marketing. I'm going to say that with love. Also, I have somebody that looks at my own stuff because sometimes you just can't see what you can't see, especially when you're in
Exactly.
it. Right. I can like, if I want to look at like really what I'm doing, I got to get like a hundred feet away from it and like be totally disconnected from it for a while so I can come back in. But most business owners are really good at the thing that they're good at.
Yep.
They're not usually good at building a funnel in their business or marketing. Like they just want to,
Do what they do.
do what they do. And marketing are their skills that have to be learned, but they're, A plus B does equal C in marketing. It's not as complicated as people try to make it. And so, if you have the time to learn it yourself, fine, you can do that. But if you want to collapse time a little bit, you can also spend the money to hire someone that can help you.
I completely agree. Or at least have those people, that circle that you can have people give their honest feedback and what you're throwing out there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm laughing at you say honest feedback. I have a mastermind group that I run twice a year. It's called the Ambition Mastermind, and just earlier this week, I had somebody send me something to look at in the group, and I was like, "Do you want my honest opinion?" She's like, "Yes, I do." Like it's really boring, and like here are the things that I would change. So like with love, I love you, but this isn't. It was a piece of marketing material, and I was just like, "This is super boring. It isn't." Indicative of who you are. And like if you hand this out to people, it's just going to get lost in the crowd of like a million other things that are equally as boring. So what can we do that's different? And yeah, sometimes it's like it's always with love, right? Like I love
Yeah,
you, but
I
this
know.
is
My
this
mom
is
says that's
not good.
my
Yeah.
mom says to me all the time. She goes, you and your I love you, but.
Yeah. Or sometimes I'm like, I love you and this is boring. So yeah, I mean that's just part of it, right? And like it's not personal. It's just, hey, you know what, if you're gonna take the time to do this and create this, like let's make sure it's what you want it to be, and let's make sure it's actually going to convert for you and not just be um, something that you're creating that's doing nothing for you.
And that is the huge thing, is that there is the love. Because if you didn't care, then you wouldn't give the honest feedback and
Yeah.
say, yeah, that looks good.
Yeah.
And then have them run it. And then they're not reaching the levels that they want to reach.
Yeah.
But in her defense, again, the hardest thing to do is be confident enough in ourselves to be who we are authentically out there.
Yeah.
And really, just what it comes down to, not give a crap if people
Yeah.
like you or not, because then those aren't your people.
No, you can't. Like, and that's something that is it's hard for people to get over. It was hard for me to get over too. Like you can't worry about what other people are doing, because here's the truth. The truth is that everybody that is where you want to be in business, the people that you look up to, whether it's Amy Porterfield or whoever that is for you, that's who it is for me. Um,
She's a good one. She is one
she's a
for
good
me
one.
too.
Yeah, she's a good
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
But those people have all been exactly where you are right now, whoever
Yeah,
is the person you admire. The second is that nobody that's actually judging you is doing more than you. Anyone that has like an opinion or thinks what you're doing is silly is doing less than you, because anyone that's doing more than you is going to be like, yeah, good for you.
that's
You do
right.
those things.
That's
Right.
right.
And so for me, it's just gotten to a place where, I've had to accept that I'm not going to be for everybody, and that's fine. Just the same way that not everybody is for me. Like,
Exactly.
same way that I don't love everybody. I can't expect everybody to love me. Um, and just like to really remember that, like, hey, this is like my own individual journey. None of those people that are, um, anyone that's judging me is not paying my bills. So that's fine. But it is something that you really have to let go of. It can be hard though, because we're talking about like deeply internalized, often childhood
Traumas.
related traumas and stories that are coming through. But truly, as an entrepreneur, like you can't let it get to you,
No.
because it's just going to drive you nuts.
I had a conversation earlier today with someone who was curious about, in our area, any feedback that I may have heard about her. And
Oh,
I know, right?
interesting.
And I what I said to her is, number one, I pride myself in not being that person that people go to say anything negative to anybody else,
Yeah.
because that's not the space that I ever want to be in for other people. Like
Yeah.
that's not what I'm here for. And I said, for her, I said, I'm sure that there are a lot of people I am not for.
Mm,
The only time I truly will self-evaluate and internalize and really question myself and where I'm in the directions that I'm going is when it is the people I care about
yeah.
that are being impacted, or I could be hurting or saying something that they think that is directed towards them, whatever it may be. That's the only time that there is a consideration and a care, because anything else is white noise. And I even said to her, I said, and quite honestly, even if I did, and I was the person who then said to you, like, oh, all this stuff is being said about you, like, how is that helpful to you? Is that
Yeah.
productive?
Yeah.
So I think that stuff is really super important to always remember. And I'm a huge proponent on your circle and who your people are. And once you have that trust, if you will, and that love from people, that you'll find yourself more willing to go out there on social media, do a video with your hair up in a bun, no makeup on, because you have something important to say and you're just going to say it.
Yeah. Yeah. It takes work. I mean, it takes time. I think that like I totally agree with that though. Like looking at the people who care about you, that you actually care about, their opinion is the one that matters. Listen, I've been an entrepreneur for almost 10 years and I've had relationships blow up in my face. I've had,
Yeah.
people that I thought cared about me, not care about me. I've had, those moments and that's been really painful. And sometimes as you like up level as an entrepreneur, you find yourself doing different things. You may end up leaving some people that you love behind because they're not along for the journey with you or they're not ready for that version of you. And so that can be hard. I think there's a piece of entrepreneurship that can be really uncomfortable because when you are like socially uncomfortable, because when
Yes.
you are trying to do big things that other people can't really understand or don't understand, you really have to go and find your circle of people that do understand, that are going to say, you know what, Lisa, instead of this idea that you have, like, let's make it bigger. How can we do it faster? Rather than the people that are like, Lisa, that's not such a great idea. Like, are you sure that you want to do that? So it's really being able to shift that and to your point, surrounding yourself with the right people and the people that are criticizing, if there is any, like you just
Yeah.
try to don't listen to it
Yeah.
and certainly don't ask for it.
100%. Couldn't agree more. So I also want to talk about your podcast.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So my podcast is called This Mother Means Business. It
When'd you start
started,
it? Oh,
I
there
started
you
it
go.
last year. So March of 2023, I think the
Okay.
first episode came out. And it really came from this place of, I didn't start my business to own motherhood, like to have motherhood conversations. I'm a person that I love being a mom, but I'm also, I was a whole human before I had my
Yes.
kids. And so really want to, continue to tap into the entirety of my human. But I was having these, really powerful conversations with other entrepreneurial mothers behind the scenes. Because typically, when we think about motherhood and entrepreneurship, we go to that like mompreneur. It gets very fluffy very fast.
Yes.
Um, it's sort of goes into the MLM space, which is, and I'm not here to knock that. It's just that's sort of the conversations. But I know a lot of incredible women who are building incredible, wildly successful businesses that also have children. And we were
Yes.
having these conversations behind the scenes about like, what is it really like? What are the things that we struggle with? How am I navigating this? How am I, dealing with that? And so nobody was having those conversations. And I never thought I would start a podcast either. But it got to this place where I was having these conversations behind closed doors. And I was like, somebody's got to have these conversations in public. Because if I had heard these conversations, 4 years prior, my daughter's going to be 7 in a couple of days, that first year or two for me as an entrepreneur with a baby were not a good time. And if somebody had, said to me, hey, what you're experiencing is normal, or here's what I would have tried here, here's what I could have done differently, it probably would have saved me a whole lot of grief. So this Mother Means business started from that. It started from me wishing that somebody had said these things to me
Yep.
before. And it's really become this place where I get to talk to other really cool mom entrepreneurs. I do solo episodes as well. It's a bit of a mix of really tangible things that you can take away in your business, as well as tangible things that you can apply to your life. So I think we're episode 78 or 79 coming out this week. So
Nice.
it's been really fun.
That is awesome. Do you do biweekly?
So
Weekly?
we
Twice a
drop
week?
episodes weekly on
Okay.
Thursdays. There was a stretch a couple months there where I was doing 2 episodes a week. But honestly, one of the things that I have learned as a mom is that I get to do what feels good for me. And so I started doing 2 episodes a week because I had someone tell me that I should. And then I
Yes.
started it and I was like, oh, I should not be doing this. It was just too much. didn't feel good for me. It felt like too much promotion. It didn't allow me to stay in my like creative energy. Felt like very forced. So we went back to one episode a week and it's been great.
That is awesome. And I love podcasting. And anytime if you're doing it at a frequency that you start not loving it, then 100% you need to make it your own. It's your podcast, right? This is all about like showing your authenticity as well, right?
And it's my business and I get to do whatever I want in my business. That's the best part. It's like I'm the CEO, so I get to call the shots. That's why I'm an entrepreneur.
So for anybody who wants to find out more about you, which by the way, I do want to state this, and I probably should have said this at the beginning, how Laura and I connected was via threads on Instagram. And this is something that I state over and over again in little passive ways on all the podcasts, or probably direct, and I'm thinking it's passive, but if you want something, it's always being open to opportunities, but you also have to grab at the opportunities.
Yeah.
You don't wait for the phone call. You make it. And Laura like posted on Threads about what was it? It was about, I forget what it was, but I was like, want to be on my podcast?
Oh, it was it was just a quippy moment of I was rejected as a guest on a podcast because somebody said I didn't have a big enough social media following. And this is like a podcast that you've never heard of. If it was Amy Porterfield rejecting me, I'd be like, okay, fine. That's cool. But it was just like they didn't want you on the show because you don't have a big enough social media following. And I was like, what is this trash? Like, this is crazy. You didn't give me a real reason for me to not be on the show.
Up to date on what actual social media following is nowadays and the significance and where you lean in. That's like going the opposite direction. That is passe and old school.
So I like to bring my sass to Threads. And so I had sort of tweeted about it and not really looking for anything. It was just like, hey, this happened and I think it's ridiculous. Anyone else? And it blew up.
Yeah.
So because a lot of other people thought that it was ridiculous too. And so I've been able to make some really cool connections. And so I'm grateful. I'm grateful for, hey, we talked about sometimes it's not what, but who, right? And
exactly.
Sometimes just talking about like what's true for you and your experience and being able to put it out there. You never know who it's going to bring into your life. And I'm very grateful for that thread, for me deciding, you know what, this isn't cool. I'm going to talk about this thing that isn't cool. And it's brought so many incredible people into my life like you. And so I'm really grateful for that.
I'm very grateful for it too, because that's how you make your connections. Okay. Totally. Now to everybody out there, where can they find more information about you? Instagram, site, and of course, blast out there your podcast again.
Yeah. So if you want to find me online, I'm at It's Laura Sinclair on Threads, on Instagram. That is where I spend a fair amount of my time on the internet. So feel free to check me out there. If you want to learn more about me, my website is www.laura-sinclair.com. And then I also am at www.thismothermeansbusiness.com, where you can learn more about my community for entrepreneurial moms. My podcast is on there. We also host a free connection call every other Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern time, where just other cool women who are building businesses get together and connect. And we call it the community hug. It's really what it's been internally renamed as the hug, the biweekly hug. It's a great place to hang out there. And if you made it this far into the episode, you're still here, we are officially friends. So please say hello.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, everyone, for listening in to The Seed. If you'd like to receive our weekly newsletter, go to Dandelion-Inc.com and click Let's Connect. And please be sure to subscribe to the Seeds podcast to hear more inspiring stories from other badass women that are all around us. Remember, behind every woman is a tribe of other successful women who have their back. To you all, thank you.